I was raised around that stuff, taxidermy, species identification, anthropology, all that stuff. So that planted the seed, and then I started spending more and more time in the wilderness in Colorado, outback adventures in the Rocky Mountains, and then extended multi-month-long outback adventures in the Sierra Nevadas and in the Himalayas. And I realized like I need to learn survival as just a tool to have. I thought I would pick up a book and just put a couple months on it and be like, cool, got that in my pocket. And little did I know it is a lifelong, if not multi-lifelong, it's a cultural model. It requires multi-generational passing down of knowledge to really become truly proficient and comfortable in nature. There are people and communities who are approaching that now, but it was really broken with the genocide that occurred all over the planet of agrarian-based societies systematically eradicating hunter-gatherer cultures, and so that chain was lost really widely all over the earth. So I love to see people who are studying from the last few remaining hunter-gatherer tribes and gleaning whatever knowledge they can, taking it and applying it to their bioregion, and trying to recreate a land ethic and a experience of relating to their bioregion. That's the whole premise of the school I'm starting with White Pine Wilderness Academy, and we even got a cool name for the project called the Re-Evolution Project, reevaluating what technologies we want to integrate into our culture that have been left behind, including cultural technologies and practical technologies like fire by friction, but also community technologies like the Thanksgiving address from the Iroquois Nation, where every gathering you have, you begin with words of thanksgiving and calling attention to all these different species in your environment, giving thanks to them. That's a really sophisticated environmental education model that they had established, which I consider a technology that I'd like to see incorporated into our culture. So. Well, it began with Tom Brown. Picked up his survival guides, jumped into them, and then attended my first class there. Had my mind blown, and really inspired by his teaching model of coyote mentoring, as he calls it. is really just inspiring people, because you can teach so much, but really what you want is people to be inspired to pursue the skills themselves. So Tom Brown first, John Young second, who started the Wilderness Awareness School. Incredible mentoring model he's established in community building, that guy is. So he influenced me heavily, and then possibly my biggest influence I was led to by Ethan Runnels. Ethan, who influenced me to start practicing skills from a standpoint of artistry, not the get-her-done philosophy, which I run into a lot. It's cool if you're of the get-her-done philosophy, but Ethan was like, man, look at how hunter-gatherer people took their craft to the level of art. Everything they made was to the level of art. You know, there's a reason for that, and that really resonated with me. And so that led me to Bill McConnell, who runs the Past Skills Wilderness School in Montana, and that's who I started learning bow building from. And they're still one and the same. That's what I loved about how holistic it is, the experience of wilderness immersion. When I got into philosophy, I was drawn to religion early on, spirituality, and I noticed really different views, really some huge gaps in the philosophies of a lot of agrarian-based religions. But even Hinduism, which I was really drawn to early on, had this yoga ethic woven into it. So that gave it a really holistic experience because we're body, mind, emotion, and spirit. Spirit maybe just being the synthesis of body, mind, emotion. But yeah, the body's a huge part of it. It's the core of like how you relate to your environment. Senses as well. So what I've noticed is that awareness follows physical patterns, and that's something you learn in tracking. Like you pattern that animal's movements, and you pattern how that animal's mind works. So our human patterns are really our brain patterns, and are based on our physical patterns. You know, if you get up and you go right to your computer and you put in an 8-hour shift on your computer, interspersed with walking to the refrigerator or walking to the bathroom. Then maybe you go out for a walk that day, maybe you don't. And then you go and turn on the TV. You've patterned your mind and your body on that. So primitive skills are a complete reaction to that. They're like, I'm not going to live that way. Mm-hmm. I'm going to pattern my brain on the natural rhythms of my bioregimen, and I'm going to pattern my brain on physical interaction with my environment, which I think I showed today. I know you already know this, but it gets pretty physical. Your arms can be shaking when you're doing hand drill. You can cut your feet when you're walking barefoot, and you can be shaking in the woods for 2 hours if you're cold and sitting still. Which is really crazy because that can happen at 50 degrees if you're sitting still. I had to learn that stuff the hard way. Yeah. And but I want that. I want to know what that feels like to be shaking and how to, adjust my breathing and realize that do I actually need to be shaking right now, even though my body wants to be low level hypothermic. Can I control that? Yeah. So. It's a physical discipline, and strength training helps a lot. Endurance training helps a lot. Flexibility, agility helps a lot. I think they're all actually completely equal balance. I don't think you can put one emphasis on one as more important.
Blissful but not content. Overjoyed with sentiment. All the world is a play for your mind to win.
there's this whole other dynamic of slow movement and then very slow movement like stalking, awareness pattern, and then sitting completely still, and the awareness patterning that comes with that, with recognizing baseline and how the birds will tell and broadcast baseline, which means this area is safe. And when you learn to sit in that, particularly at dawn and dusk, you begin to see the movement of mammals that you've never seen before: mink and bobcat and mountain lion and white-tailed deer and red fox and great horned owl begin to come around you. And those are honors. Those have always traditionally, in traditional societies, been the symbols of medicine, good medicine, and honor, to be gifted with that view of an animal. Sometimes, interestingly, it's by accident. The animal doesn't even know you're there. And other times that animal is aware that you're there. And they still gift you with that view because they recognize that you are sitting in baseline, and there's something special about that. So they come to check you out because you're curious.
What's baseline? Explain that.
Baseline is the state of the forest when it's not an alarm. Alarm is most people's only experience of the forest. Usually because they're walking at a city gate 2, 3, 4 miles an hour, if not running 8 miles an hour. And they may even be talking on their cell phone. They have no intention of bringing their awareness into their environment. Very few people go and sit still in nature. Fishermen often will be in one place in nature and will know intuitively baseline. Baseline is often a feeling, and you'll really notice that internally. It's an emotion. Your emotion will hit this state where you stop thinking about your plans for the day and you get really present. And right about the time you feel that, you'll notice that and it may be completely linked to the fact that the bird song and the behavior of the small mammals and small birds around you are not an alarm anymore. They haven't run in terror from the wake of disturbance that you brought into that area. They're feeding, they're singing, they're companion calling, doing all the things that birds do and animals do, burying an acorn in the ground, 20 yards from you. And all of this normal behavior creates the feel of baseline. So particularly large herbivores, but also large predators, have to pay rapt attention to baseline versus alarm. There's alarm, they're gone. You will never see them again, and you may never see them in your life. Certain mountain lions are now in this area, and they only get picked up on trail cams. They may go their entire life without having human eyes set on them once, and they move right through these areas. I've led a pretty traditional lifestyle, but I'm putting some roots down now, and I have to really organize my time more effectively. But sometimes I'll go through a stage in life where I literally built a mud hut out on a cliffside, and I will live and sleep 24 hours a day in nature for months at a time. I haven't lived that extremely in probably 10 years. I've been working more on just quality, not quantity. So quality can be a camping trip where you take less and less each time. Maybe this camping trip I will only bring a sleeping bag, and I'll build a fire myself and build shelter myself. I like not going all the way with that, because it's like so many people get into this purist attitude, like I'm going full survival. I will only use stone tools. It's not about that. It's just slowly building your proficiency out there, taking less and less. At this point, where I'm living in Indianapolis now and trying to start a business, I really have to focus on quality, not quantity. And this is essential for me. I need an hour out there a day, if possible, preferably at dawn or dusk, to really get out there and experience basics. I'm in a different phase of life now. I'm about going on 40, and I'm in a position as an elder now, I would call it, because I'm starting a community, and I'm carrying stories, and I'm a teacher. So I was kind of in this like learning stage before, and I was just like in my own personal experience, and I was in awe of nature, and I wasn't functional back then in society at all. I would just be out there for months at a time and cry, every day when I'd see some tree, and like just sit there and like I was like not functional. I couldn't function in society. So that's been hard for me. I realized eventually that wasn't sustainable. I have family here. I have things I want to achieve. So I've been learning how to do things like use social media and pay taxes and all that crap. But I'm learning it, and I'm realizing there's some gifts in it. And when I approach my time in nature really highly disciplined, now I approach it with the intention of gleaning stories. That's what I go out for now. That's what most inspired me, is sharing these things with community. So when I go out, instead of saying like I'm going to go out and experience baseline for 30 minutes, now I go out and I say, where can I experience the coolest story? Put myself in the position to potentially experience the coolest story to pass on. Because I love storytelling in a community environment. And so with that intention, I go to where I think I'll see most likely see wildlife that's not often seen, and get out there and put myself in that position. Dirt time, just, we were out there today, and you get gifted with something like sandhill cranes, passing overhead. And those stories have so much to teach, did anybody see the sandhill cranes yesterday? And some people are like, yeah. And then that boosts the whole awareness of the community. They're like, man, I don't want to miss the sandhill cranes next time. I'm going to look next time I'm out. And that's how traditional society structures this storytelling experience, Let's slowly move towards developing new relationships with our environment, new ways of interacting with each species. That's what really makes a difference when people start to build a personal relationship with the cottonwood tree, because they know that's the best tinder, and they know that's the best wood for making fire by friction. And then they see cottonwood everywhere, and they relate to it personally. They know what it smells like, what it feels like, how it carves, how heavy it is. They know when the buds are opening up and the cottony seed pods. They know all of that. And then when you build those connections on that level, that only primitive skills I have seen do can build that relationship with bioregion. Nothing even compares, even with like organic gardening, which I think is awesome. Doesn't even come close to comparing to building those inroads with those real, full sensory, experiential relationships with each species in your bioregion. I want to see a synthesis of the two come about in our society through, I could see new educational models that are built on relating to our own bioregion that are adopted in the public school system. I've been going around to the public school system. They're open to it, presenting this stuff. Montessori is super open to movement, how movement incorporates with education. Kids need physical movement as part of their education. It's been ignored for way too long. It's so sad. But specifically, the really advanced technologies that come from traditional societies are the societal ones, not the bow drill, not the bow and arrow, but the real ways that they created diplomacy, and the way that they created an environmental education system through organizing. One of them I talked about was the Thanksgiving address that comes from the Iroquois Nation, probably the most advanced Aboriginal technology I've ever seen. a slower pace out there. The rhythm that it demands of you is slower. It says, take it easy. This is what's going on in this 40-yard square area right now. If I run over and grab that stick because I want to work on it to make something, I'm going to disturb the birds that are feeding right there. And they're going to demand that I get up slowly and walk over there slowly, pick it up slowly, and sit down and slowly carve my stick. And if I do it at that pace, they'll allow me to do it. If you don't care, if you're not listening, you can do whatever you want. That's why it's quality, not quantity. A lot of people go out there and they dictate their own pace. That's fine to do sometimes. You don't always have to be 100% in touch with your environment. I love to run. You are going to cause a wake of disturbance if you're running, though. That's correct. Do it an hour a day. Do it 4 hours a day. How much you want to run. The rest of the time, tune in and slow down and experience that slower pace. The psychological health that comes from that, I think the root of so much of our pathology comes from the constant rush that comes from modern society. There's a pace, and it's getting worse to the extreme now with cell phones. Like 99.5% of the time, we've been interacting, evolving, developing our physiology, developing our senses, developing our brain patterns and physical patterns around interacting with each other and with our bioregion as hunter-gatherers. And anything that honors that, and there's a lot of creative work that needs to be done, but also just observing traditional cultures. You want to see how you evolve to relate to your environment? Look at the Kalahari, Kong San. Look at the last remaining hunter-gatherer peoples on the road. How do they relate? They've got a lot of leisure time, lots of leisure time. They go out, they forage, they tell stories, they have parties every night that are based on music and storytelling. Very communal, always talking to each other, joking, laughing, tracking, and everything they do is art. They don't think they're ever working. They don't have the word for work. We don't know what that is. We are just making baskets. There's nothing they'd rather be doing. Making baskets, making bows, making tools that they take to the level of art. That's a strategy that appears, a technology, a perspective that appears universally around the planet. It's a beautiful way to live. Lots of leisure time, lots of time to work on your art, lots of time to interact with your bioregion. In fact, 100% of the time.
Yeah.
You'll be thrown into it if you don't practice it, and that's why I turned down the job with Naked and Afraid. I'm tired of the throw them in and watch them figure it out. Build it mindfully. Now's the time. Mindfully build these connections. I give calories every week from my bioregion. I know how to do it. I train myself to do it. And even if it's just 100 calories or if it's 5,000 calories that week of glean from my environment, slowly building that relationship to it, making my clothes from my environment. Even if it's just one garment. Figure it out now. You're not going to figure out how to make clothes from your environment when you're thrown into it. That's too late. You're naked and afraid at that point. I mean, it's
funny, the title of that show, that's what they want.
Yeah,
they want to be naked, they want to be afraid. Like that, it's not a way to live.
Yeah. So water. But we don't have a lot of springs around here, but southern Indiana is an amazing place to practice. There's springs all over the place. That is such a meaningful relationship to build with your bioregion. Learn how to find fresh water. Taste it. Nothing better in the world. And the last one, shelter. That's where it all began for me. Build a structure on the land. And even if it's a little debris hut or a wickiup or a hogan, like mine, still standing from 12 years ago. It'll stand there forever, covered in moss. You wouldn't even see it on this mountain. and sleep in a shelter, it is unbelievable connection.
Yeah.
The shelter is the most essential to our survival, and that's when it really becomes real. This has given me warmth for the night. I can survive like this, thrive like this.
Did you hear it? Oh yeah. There they are. Oh yeah. Wow, that's loud. Oh wow, there's a bunch of them right above us. There's a whole army of them.